few seconds to.
Yeah, I can see us.
Yeah, is everything coming through YouTube okay? Yep, beautiful. Right, and good evening, and welcome to the first episode of the INN, the Sunday at the Inn, a cosy chat with the Independent Nationalist Network. The whole team, or part of the team here, is here tonight, just to go through everything that we've been doing for the past kind of year or so. Talk a little bit of the plans of what we aim to do in the future. And for you to get to meet the team and sort of get to know us a little bit more as a family. So without further ado, let's introduce the guys. Obviously, I'll drop Rich in first off. He's my longtime buddy and co-founding member of the INN. Good evening, Rich.
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, everyone. Obviously, what we're going to look to do with this stream is to run in every fortnight. It's going to be a way. The main aim of the stream, in all honesty, is to reach out to other groups as part of our networking process by doing interviews with leaders and members from other groups from across the dissident spectrum, the whole range of the dissident spectrum. So we're hoping to get as many people on as possible over the next few weeks. As I say, it's going to be fortnightly. We may do pre-recorded interviews in between, but that's the plan. We're looking to reach out to as many groups as we can, using this as a medium from which to make contact with them and get a bit of unity. So back over to you, brother.
Fantastic, thank you, Rich. Yeah, it's a very descriptive idea of what we're doing, which is great. And to what would be on my right would be Kit Jam. Good evening, my darling. How are you doing?
I'm right, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. One of our newest members.
Yeah. It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you. It's great to have you, and you're always a welcome character at these protests and things. You're always such a bubbly, sort of charming character. It's nice. It's not what they expect when nationalists turn up to demonstrations.
No. Try and do my bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you do, and we've got to give you your dues for last year with the This Ends Now campaign with the drag queen story hours. You amazingly did the voiceover for us, didn't you? And that was incredible. I think it really hit home with everyone, sort of the level of degeneracy. And if people thought that we were joking last year, just look at how
Joe, there's a bit of an issue with the sound, mate. Bit of an issue with your mic.
An issue with my mic?
Yeah, you're standing a bit crackly and whatever.
Okay, should we just let it just catch up just a tiny bit? Okay.
I thought your sound was okay.
Yeah, it might just be realigning itself.
But it was a pleasure doing the voiceovers anyway, and
yeah,
it was good, and I think we've got a lot more to do on that this year with stopping the whole drag queen.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, people thought that it was. I think it was sort of again taken with a bit of a pinch of salt. And I just say to people, look at the way that things have moved on over the past 12 months, and even with the resistance that we've had against it. Don't get me wrong, we've had wins, and these things are being spoken about in Parliament, and they are starting to worry about it. But they really have. They've just got worse and worse as things have gone on. Anyway, Viking.
Hello, mate. You're right.
How are you doing, buddy?
All good. Yeah, all good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Pleasure to have you, mate. Yeah, so you've been a busy man as well recently, haven't you? Doing the faithful job, being a father, and doing all that stuff. But yeah, you also have some interesting hobbies as well, don't you, Viking?
Yeah, well, in my spare time, weekends when I'm not busy being a dad and all the rest of it, I like going around hitting people with a big axe. And that's always good fun. So yeah, I do Viking reenactment. It's something hobby I've been involved in for a number of years. Something I love to do, and I'm a massive history fan. And it's just something that I enjoy, and it gets me out camping. I get to hang out with like-minded folk, and it's good fun.
Do people actually turn up with the authentic? Oh, Rich, I've got a bit of echo coming through off your headphones, I think, mate.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've had to. Everyone's telling me my mic's crackling. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
I can hear you better now. Yeah.
That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
I've just gone to the mic on the camera, so
No, it's making it echo, Rich, really bad.
is it?
Yeah. Just while you're not talking, just mute yourself off. And then when you need to say something, just bang on. There you go. That'll work perfect. That's fine. You probably should do that anyway. But yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah. So do you do like, or do people turn up with like the authentic Saxon like tents and stuff? Like, do they do like the tripods and that sort of stuff? Does that happen?
I mean,
They have to, otherwise they're not authentic.
Or
if you go to any reenactment show, you'll have what they call an authentic camp, which will be guys that will be sleeping and living authentically. They'll be cooking with the iron cookery pots. They'll have the big tents, all that kind of stuff. Then you have plastic camp, which is for all the peasants who can't afford that kind of kit, which would be me. And that's basically Party Central. That's where everyone goes for a few beers after the show and stuff like that, especially after the public have gone. But the authentic camp is the bit that the public will go and spend a lot of time in. And the funny part about authentic camp is you have to be in character when you're in authentic camp. So whatever you're portraying, whether you're a Danish warrior, a Saxon, a Celt, whatever, you're in character. So you'll get families, members of the public coming up and talking to you, and you have to be in character. You have to be your person. And for example, there's a game called Half and Taffel, which Vikings used to play. And we'll play Half and Taffel, and then we'll have a brawl. We'll have an argument over who won and who's cheating, and we'll end up having a big wrestling match and a brawl. And then the town guard will come in and start arresting people. And it's good fun. It's almost like live action role play, but in a historical setting. So yeah, it's good fun.
That's really cool, and I guess it puts on a bit of a show as well, doesn't it? You know, it's like you get these guys who do the Western stuff, and they're just really diehard, like, you know, historians, and they this is like a big hobby of theirs. Like, but yeah, I see the draw for it. To be honest with you, I'd love to come out with you for a weekend at some point and come and experience it. That'd be really cool. Yeah,
it's good fun, and I love the combat aspect as well. So like when we do the battles and everything like that, that it's really good. I mean, the guys that have been doing the hobby for a long time, I mean, they're so skillful at what they do. And when you go up against a certain guy and you're going to have a fight with him or whatever, you're in safe hands because they're so trained. They train so hard, and they know how to pull their blows and stuff like that. So you're never really going to get too badly hurt. I mean, it doesn't always work out that way, of course, but yeah, it's good fun, great fun.
Yeah, just bear with me just a second. I'm just going to pull up
some pictures.
Some photos. Yeah.
Excellent.
You're always welcome to come along, Lenny.
Can everyone see this on screen?
No.
You can't, no? Okay.
No.
1 second. I should see this one.
Oh, that's...
No. Here we go.
Yeah. So is that shield made out of metal or something like that?
No, that's ply with leather over the top. That shield is actually it's a curved like dome shield, and it was used by sort of Rus Vikings, Russian Vikings. That kit is actually the very first kit I ever put together, and it was a friend of mine's wife made that kit for me, and it's a bit of a mishmash. It's not actually it's authentic, but it's not really portraying any one thing, which is what they like you to do. But that was my very, very first Viking kit. It sort of progressed. If you go through the pictures, you'll see how the progression has gone along. But that was the very first Viking show I ever did. That was the kit that I wore for that one. But I love that shield. That shield is so good to fight with as well. It's great because when you take a shot from somebody with it, it tends to sort of slide off, so you don't get that big impact on your shoulders and on your arms.
Curved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's quality. Excellent. Let's have a little peek through. Oh, here he is in the bushes waiting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one was that's my kit's a bit more together in that one. The shield and the pattern you're seeing on that shield is Vinland Vikings, which were the Vikings that discovered America allegedly. And that kit there. I've also got the helmet I'm wearing in that one. That's leather. That's not actually metal. That's made of hardened leather.
Brilliant. And what I suppose they boil it all and shape it and boil it and dry it and
shape
absolutely.
It. Very,
very cool. This is so it's all the this is brilliant. Look at that. What a great photo.
So
the
that's
tent in the background and everything.
that's the sort of kit started to come together and looking more authentic. The group that I was a part of, they were Hiberno Norse, so they were Celtic Vikings, hence the name. So wherever Vikings went, they took bits of that culture that worked for them. So they liked the plaid cloaks, for example, and some of the fighting weapons that were used. So in that, you can actually see sort of the fringing on the cloak and everything like that. You can't quite see the cloak brooch. They used to wear like a Romanesque brooch with the fringed cloaks and stuff like that, which set them apart from the normal Vikings that you saw.
Yeah, sure. And they were, as it started getting into that sort of age, that's when belt buckles came around, if I'm correct, as well.
Yeah.
We used pins before, didn't we? It's like they weave a pin through, and then the buckle sort of developed around that time. And I believe that was quite a sort of a Saxon inspired thing. Very cool.
Yeah, that's
look at him.
Yeah, that's the
discovered. Very cool.
Yeah. That's the Finnish article. Yeah, that was that picture was taken at the 950th anniversary of Battle of Hastings.
Right, brilliant, very, very cool. I feel bad. I feel like Rich would like to say something on this. Is there any way we can get you a different set of headphones, Rich? Because
how does this sound?
It's all right, a bit crackly, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
No,
to me,
I've adjusted a little bit on the thing, but we'll see how it goes. It all looks great. I'll tell you what, that's definitely, when you do your reenactments, you got to let us know. That's an INN day out, family day out, that is.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds a laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good fun. And if you stick around afterwards as well, we'll get you down in the camp and we'll get you drunk on mead.
I was going to say, would they appreciate me bringing a couple of bottles of mead? Because I've got about 3 gallons on the side over there.
The 950th, we had guys came over from Normandy. So we had the actual guys who descended from the Normans. And there was one guy who brought this homebrew mead. And I've never seen anything like it. It came out and it was like treacle. And he said to me, whatever you do, he said, don't sip it. He said, you've got to knock it back in one, which I did. And it had the weirdest effect because I got drunk from the legs up. So I was fine. I was sitting there chatting away. And then I went to stand up and I was like a baby giraffe. I ended up like pottering across the field and falling over a couple of times. I just couldn't get my legs to work. It was bizarre.
I've never had that sort of thing in my life. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'd say I've had a similar experience with a Polish mate of mine, and he made plum. I think they call it plum wine, and it's something like 90% proof or something. They recommend that you don't. What is it that you breathe out? breathe in all of the air into your lungs before you drink it, because if you inhale in whilst you're drinking it, you can pass out because of the fumes. So yeah, it was an interesting one that evening. So Kit Jam, yeah, while we're on sort of interesting hobbies and stuff, I've got some photos of you and your interesting hobby with you're an equestrian enjoyer.
Yes, I got a horse. Yeah, I love horses. Got two. Yeah,
And you ride them most days?
Nearly every day, to be honest. Yeah, nearly every day. Well, I haven't today because I thought I'd have a day off, but yeah, mostly have to do something with either one of them or both of them every day. But even if I don't ride them, I have to obviously look after them, and they take a lot of work.
I feel very privileged, Kit Jam. I feel like you've chosen the INN over the GGs today. Oh, very cool. Well, yeah, let's have a look at some photos. Let me see if we can do this a bit more streamlined.
I hope got some good ones.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's me. That's my little mare. That's I think jumping about a metre. So yeah, we used to event. So that would be we'd do dressage, show jumping, and then cross country. That would be in the show jumping phase. Nice little. Yeah, and that's in the cross country phase. I'd fallen off just before that jump, actually. I fell off and got back on again, and then the photographer was at that jump there. I fell off.
Very cool.
Used to
Very
fall off a lot.
Did you get the full shot though?
What do you mean?
As in the full shot, as in the photo of the epic fall?
No, actually, nobody took a picture of me falling. It was a silly fall.
I want to see that, Kit Jam.
Oh, that one's funny.
I don't mean it like that.
that one's hilarious. I was coming up to that drop, trying to pull her up, saying slow down, and she wouldn't, and she threw herself off that drop, and my face, if you zoom in, it's just me going, ooh.
Well, you're pretty high there, aren't you?
Ooh.
I mean, that's a pretty serious height for sure. Yeah. I mean, even in fact, I think the horse is actually sharing the same sort of worried face that you are in the photo.
Yeah, she's like, I got this. You come with me. Yeah, so it's just like, all right, then onwards into the next one.
Brilliant, but you made it okay though.
Yeah, like I said, my colours were red, white, and blue that I used to ride in.
Very cool.
Yeah,
you like that at the INN.
Yeah.
So do you think the horses enjoy, but like all the pampering and stuff, where they braid the hair and all that kind of stuff? Do you think they know what's going on? They're like,
yeah. The minute
competition day today, I know what's coming.
The minute you start, the minute that you get the travel boots out or get the plaits out, they know. They get it. You say excited, but you might say terrified, but then I'm terrified too. So we're doing it together. But
yeah, of course, because they say that horses have a similar sort of level of intelligence to kind of dogs, don't they? But just sort of in different areas and things. And I'd be inclined to agree with that. I've met some pretty intelligent horses, to be fair.
Yeah, you're in tune with them, and that's me jumping again. That's the show jumping phase. That's not a very good picture, actually. I look a bit left behind, but because that's my little mare called Hannah.
Yeah. So ideally, you'd want to be a bit tighter into the front of the seat when you're jumping.
That's me getting a bit left behind, but yeah, she's very keen. She's very. Oh, that's me riding bareback. I've had that horse for lots of years. I think 16 years now, so we're like old friends. She's an old pair of slippers sort of thing, really, but she's still naughty. She's still sharp as a tack. She'll still put you on the floor if you fall, don't ride her properly.
Yeah,
that's before I went eventing.
Very nice. So how long have you done this? Have you done this all your life, or
no? I started horse ride. Oh, that's very cool. Just before I went hunting. That's actually my son's horse. But he's obviously left me with this horse now because he's gone off to university and now moved out of home. So he's become well, I suppose I should sell him really, but he's a pet now. But that's I went hunting that day. Just
Which sorry, gone too many.
No,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Which is often quite a sort of a strong subject in all
is.
circles, really, isn't it? It doesn't matter where you go, but
It is.
We've had this debate, haven't we, Kit Jam?
Yeah, we have. But if you look at the pictures of the dress code we have to wear, you know, it's very formal, and a lot of people think that equestrian people are sort of toffs and posh and lots of money and everything, but really we aren't, because that's where all our money's gone. We're very poor, but you have to wear the uniform. You know, you can't compete unless you've got the right clothing. So
yeah, I mean, I just see it as it's you know, it's just a matter of time before these things just simply start disappearing and
exactly,
you know, and being myths if we don't, you know, continue to do them at the end of the day. You know, I sort of have my own views on hunting and fox hunting and that kind of stuff, but
it's a sport.
I still see it as a, you know, it is a tradition, and it's something
it's
that
a sport and it's a tradition, and we don't do it for foxing. It's the adrenaline rush. I mean, you go cross country on a horse, 100 miles an hour, not quite 100 miles an hour. It's adrenaline. You know, it's about the day out, and it's everything. It's about the people that do the dogs. It's about people that keep horses, getting, you know, even down to the drink before you go hunting. And I like that picture there because there's a swallow off my left shoulder, and when the swallows are over in the summer, it's always quite special down at the farm.
That's very cool.
My wife comes from a fox hunting family, and my in-laws are fox hunters. Well, primarily my father-in-law. And if you speak to them about fox hunting, about the politics behind it all, they've got a completely different outlook on things.
Exactly, it's a country. It's a country.
Very much so.
The country code and everything. Yeah, which town people don't understand because they've got the urban foxes. Which they like to feed, and you know, urban foxes are a very different animal from the country fox.
Well, foxes aren't nice animals. I mean, people think that they're fluffy and sweet, and they think they try to think of them like dogs, but they're not. They're actually they're quite brutal animals. I mean, I used to keep chickens years ago.
Oh, they kill the whole lot, all of them.
Yeah. They went in. They
kill them.
I had 8 ducks. I had 8 ducks and 12 chickens. I had 12 Rhode Island Reds, and they went in. A fox got in there one night. He killed the whole lot. He took one for the pot. That was it.
Yeah, and we're back the next night just in case you missed one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, rabbits are, you know, your pet rabbit. Fox would kill your pet rabbit.
Oh, that shadow of a doubt in a heartbeat.
I mean, there's been like reports of them happening, you know, into houses and killing babies and things, haven't they, when they're crying and stuff, because they see them as a threat and whatever. So I mean, it's, you know, legit, isn't it? You know, I mean, they are, you know, they're apex predators, aren't they? At the end of the day, you know, they're not cute, cuddly.
I think the old-fashioned hunting
really
thing
like cats,
is
like, at least cats don't really have that ability to sort of murder your baby, do they? You know, sort of.
The whole thing about hunting is, though, people think it's an elite sport, though. So they're against fox hunting because they think it's elite, but it isn't. It used to be, because it used to be the king would go hunting wild boars, you know, but at today's level of hunting, I mean, they don't even really kill foxes. It's illegal to actually kill a fox, but the drag hunting and stuff. But people are opposed to that anyway, because if you own a horse and you wear your shirt and tie and your gear, they think you're.
Yeah, it's amazing as well. Like, I put a video up in the group, didn't I? When me and my daughter saw the hunt going by and stuff, and it was awesome. It was so cool to see all those horses. And
it's a real local community thing.
It's a community thing, Kit Jam. Exactly. You know, and that is so much of what we're missing. You know, it really is. And it's like, you know, we talk about these things and we say, oh, it's such a shame and stuff, you know, but you know, like Viking, what you're doing with your pals there, you know, you're keeping something alive there. You know,
tradition alive.
It's the same with the fox hunting, you know. All right, fair enough. It's not, you know, what it was and whatever, but at least it's been kept, you know, kept somewhat, going ahead, which is really important. And for anyone else's traditions to be sort of thrown down the drain like this, it would be seen as a great travesty. But because it's sort of ours, it's something that can be quite quietly be put to bed, and it's like, no, we refuse, absolutely refuse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing that amazes me about the hunts is the dogs, because they can trace the lineage of each individual dog going right the way back. They're bred specifically. They are the apex of their breed. Those dogs are perfection. And if you stop fox hunting, what are you going to do with those dogs? The dogs, they're not house dogs. They can't come and live in someone's house.
That trophy there. That's because I used to own 2 foxhounds as pets. Now, they don't make great pets, so I wouldn't recommend it. Like you said, they're not house dogs, but I did actually have 2. That's from the Peterborough Hound Show, where I won best. Like, was it best bitch? The dog, not me. But you're right. It's the dog, the breeding. Then all of the stud book goes back through the generations of dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. My father-in-law goes to Normandy hunting, and he's part of one of the Normandy hunts. And if you look at their the kit that they wear, is fantastic. They wear this it's almost like a ceremonial dress, and they have these big like hunting daggers that they wear on their belts. And I was discussing with him once about it, and I said, do you ever get hunt sabs, go to any of the hunts in Normandy? And he says, yeah, they turn up, but we shoot them. That's France for you.
Yeah, we might have to move there.
I mean, with the dog breeds and stuff, it is incredible. I watched a program on it not so long ago that was sort of outlining this stuff, and over the 10,000 years, sort of how we've got to where we are, and the amount of breeds that we've even lost along the way is crazy.
Dogs all have jobs. They've got jobs. The terrier they do rats. Sight hounds, scent hounds.
Almost sort of coining your sort of point there. It was on the outskirts of Alaska, so sort of Canada and whatever, and it was the guys who they were doing some form of fishing out there, and they basically bred this dog to be immune to ice water. It developed like this oily coat that was impenetrable by water, so you could literally just throw them in ice water and they could just swim all day long, no problem. I think it was called it was some offshoot of the Labrador. I don't know. Someone can check it for me but I know it's I know it's true. But yeah, unfortunately, they're non-existent anymore because when all the fishing died down in that area, there was no need for the dogs anymore, so they stopped breeding them, and now they don't exist. So it just goes to show that this is what happens. We'll just end up with a country full of fucking. Sorry, YouTube. We'll end up with a. We'll end up with a country full of Shih Tzus and tiny dog breeds.
I know the inventor of the cockapoo, or the not the cockapoo, the Labradoodle, and the whatever crosses with poodles. That he says he regrets it. He says he created Frankenstein's monster in that making a crossbreed because of all the health problems that are bred out of certain breeds, and then you cross a breed, and then it's a whole new set of health problems. But then that's the same with people, isn't it? Multiculturalism. The NHS is going to be broken on the back of different races mixing and different illnesses occurring because of that, and blood that's required for the new breed of brown person that parent can't provide blood, or no one else can either because mother and father are incompatible.
Such a small, well, it's such a small population, isn't it?
And we see it in the dogs, and we're like not getting frightened about it, but we keep our breeds of our dogs and our horses so like we don't crossbreed like dogs of generation, like that one's a grandfather to that puppy, so it can't breed with that one. But people aren't restricted like that, are they?
The other thing as well that I think is interesting when you look at the whole debate around fox hunting, And you look at the two sides of it. You've got the people that are actually involved in the hunts, and then you've got the people that are anti-hunting. And a lot of the time, as Kit has already mentioned, these people live in towns and cities. They don't understand the countryside. They don't understand things like the morning chorus and all that kind of thing. So they interfere in something that they've got no business interfering in. And this is it's almost like a kind of an overshot of the whole of society, where people who have got no business involved in somebody else's business think that they can just dictate to other people. And I think that's the sad part about the whole fox hunting debate, is you've got people who want it stopped, who've never been to a fox hunt. They don't know anything about it. They don't know anything about the countryside. And, the people that do turn up to fox hunts, the hunt sabs and stuff, they say that they're pro animal rights and all this kind of stuff, but you hear these stories of this hunt sabs throwing ammonia in the horses' faces and stuff like that when they're riding. I mean, is that really what you want to do if you're animal rights? Not in my book, it's not.
I mean, they show up to stop fishing and all sorts. They wade through the rivers and stop people fishing, don't they? So, they don't stop. But then they feed the urban foxes in their houses.
FLM, Fish Lives Matter.
Yes. They don't seem to go to the pheasant shooting though, because they've got guns. You see pheasants being shot down and ducks being shot, and that is a proper sport. And they breed pheasants and they breed ducks just to people to shoot out the sky, but no one seems to be shouting about that. Even this year with bird flu going on, that hasn't been stopped, has it?
I don't know. I just don't really have a massive issue with that. Do you know what I mean? Because like pheasants, they get to free range through forests that probably get the safest life that they could ever imagine, not being ripped to pieces by a fox and stuff.
And then we eat them after.
And then eat them after, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is, by them free ranging, by them moving the way that they do, it's all completely natural. And there's enough studies that have been done now that prove that the life quality of that meat is far higher than anything that you could ever produce in a massive warehouse somewhere. Which is it all draws down to, all of this really comes down to the big question, isn't it? It's what do we all want from this? We're all in these distant circles. We've all decided that there's something really truly wrong with our country and wrong with the world that we're living in. But we have to decide amongst ourselves, what kind of world do we want to live in? Like I'm sort of on the level of, I want freedom, but then with freedom comes, you need responsibility and limitations with that, because if you give people ultimate freedom, then you're basically opening the doors to ultra capitalism and because they're allowed to do that. If you have ultimate freedom, then these people, by all rights, it's their right to capitalize over us and get this financial control over us. Then you're leading into things like where do you stop with legal age of consent? Are you sort of are you leading down a road to sort of paedophilia and that sort of stuff? The list is endless, isn't it? So really what you're looking for is what everyone wants is freedom, but then we also want a reasonable framework within that of a good law. And that's where I see the old English common law coming into play, where you have this freedom, but then you also have the virtue of fairness. I would like things to be a lot fairer for everyone across the board, which obviously also taps into the common law because it applies to everyone within that domain. And I think this is the whole thing, isn't it? And everything that we talk about here tonight, this would, in this law, we could sort of put it into stone that the English heritage is to be maintained and is to be preserved, and that it can never be touched. I mean, the same would go for, obviously I don't care too much about Sweden. Obviously it comes from, a lot of my history comes from there, so it does bother me. But, they were even talking about, get this. I mean, the woman who was at the head of historical artifacts in Sweden was an African lady. And she was actually pushing for the melting down of any of the artifacts that were. You know about this, Viking, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You should do. And I was reading these articles a few years back, and I was like, "What this?"
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
watch language, but you know what are
They
they doing?
wanted to.
You know, if
They
a
actually
man-
wanted to ban the Thor's hammer and the Algiz and a lot of the runes as well, because they wanted to do it on the basis that they were symbols of hate. Because obviously the New Zealand guy, the New Zealand shooter, had put a lot of symbols on his guns and stuff like that. You know, at the end of the day, this is history. This is people's culture and history, and you're trying to erase it. And what makes it even worse is it's somebody who isn't part of that culture or that history is
Yeah, I was
making
just
that
about to say that.
decision to get it erased, which is like, wow, really? And there's no agenda there, is there? You know?
Honestly, I mean, imagine going to the, you know, the Egyptian, you know, the Cairo it's archaeology department and saying, right, you know, the next pharaoh's tomb that you open up, like, yeah, we want you to melt down all the metal objects and stuff in there. You know, can you imagine? Because that offends us, because we find, like, you know, Egyptian artifacts offensive to our people, so we want you to melt them down. I mean, can you imagine that ever being, you know?
But that's all kind of part of the agenda, though, isn't it? It's, if you look across the West, not just in Scandinavia, but in this country as well, it is all about erasing our history, and it's little small things like that you notice that lead on to the bigger stuff. And when you scratch beneath the surface and you look at the people that are behind it, it's very, very rarely people that are actually from this country or from our culture. It's usually somebody from outside. He's coming in, he's saying, well, this is all hateful now, so we need to change it all. And, you know, it's got to be more inclusive. But it's history. It's set in stone. It's truth. It's what's happened. If you start, you know, changing the truth and changing history, what you get is a lie and something that's just fabricated.
Yeah, can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah, no chance.
Oh, good, that's good. But yeah, the agenda is a wide-ranging thing. It's not just one thing. It's not just COVID. It's not just, you know, it's 15 minute cities. It's everything from the Great Replacement to the Great Reset and everything in between, and including cultural replacement. They're trying to sort of do away with everyone's culture, and you know, particularly in the West, it seems to be the West that's, you know, culturally being attacked. But yeah, it's happening everywhere. But you won't see them getting rid of Maori artifacts or Aboriginal artifacts. It's just ours, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Then I guess I don't think there's anyone really fighting for this stuff either. Do you know? I see it on kind of all levels. You know, that you have this kind of stuff going on, and it does tend to be that I think we've just like polited ourselves out of kind of existence. You know, it's just where it's, you know, just not enough people have just gone, well, no. And then when they're like, well, yeah, no, just simply no. You're not messing with our stuff, you know. But you know, these positions, like I say, I mean, you know, I don't think it's a particularly unfair thing to say that to have, you know, to have an African lady as the head of the Swedish, you know, archaeological society just doesn't ring right to me. Do you know what I mean? Shouldn't that just be kind of just dealt with by people who have an interest in it? You know, I don't know, man. Just, you know, and this is what I mean by the trouble is, I mean, you know, you wonder why we've got a mayor like we have. You wonder why we've got a prime minister like we have. And the simple fact is that people haven't been stepping up to the plate. You know, we've let these little council positions go. We've let the little parish positions go because people don't turn up to these things and they don't vote themselves in. You know, and then slowly but surely we've just been chipped away and chipped away and chipped away until we've come to the end, you know, the end of it. And it's sort of like, hang on a second, where's all of our power gone? You know, we've got no say in anything anymore. And it's because we've literally just let it slip out of our hands because people haven't been politically engaged, you know.
It's convenient. It's convenience as well. I mean, the way that if you think about it, we've willingly handed over all sorts of things to the state. And we've become more and more dependent on the state. I mean, you could look at so many areas, like education is a great one. We've handed over the education of our children to the state, right? And then once you hand over the education of your children to the state, they then get to control that education, which they shouldn't, because they are public servants, and we are the public. They should be serving our needs. We should be able to tell them what we teach what they can teach our kids and what they can't, rather than them telling us what they're going to teach our kids. It's the tail wagging the dog all the time. But we've done it because over the years we've allowed more of our life to become controlled by them. We become more dependent on them. And the only way to really reverse this, I think, is for us to start taking back control over those aspects of our life. It's not easy because they make it difficult, but that's the way forward. I mean, obviously, Joe touched on constitutional common law. Obviously, the restoration of that is important, in order to get sovereignty back to the people and away from the public servants who should just be servants. But it's also a case that we ourselves have allowed so much of our life to be controlled by these people, and we've become dependent.
We've been bred through like the TV to be compliant, to take all this on. Like there's people out there going, oh, we need to start eating insects. That's what we've got to do now. We've got to eat insects. And you sort of say, no, you don't. I have a friend who said to me, oh, I've got to buy a new car. I'm going to buy an electric car because it's the future. It's like, no, it isn't. Not if it isn't. Oh, but it is, because that's what it says on the telly.
Because that's going to be the new currency and everything.
Like,
it's like no, you don't.
Unsaturated fats of the 70s. We must be cholesterol. It's just we've been programmed to be compliant.
We're being shafted again. All this low fat stuff, all it was they're just taking the fat out of these milk products and going selling it in something else, and then charging you more for a product that actually has less nutrition in it than it did before, and then selling it to you like it's more healthy, which it's not. You're actually just taking away all of the stuff that makes it
getting rid of byproducts.
Accessible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you notice, isn't it funny how we've gone from cooking everything in lard to cooking everything in these oils, blah, blah, all this low fat, and everyone's getting fatter.
Yeah, and everyone's ill.
I cook in lard. I cook in lard.
Oh, yeah. We do as well. Yeah. We're quite, my wife's quite keen on the sort of ancestral diet. So we have a lot of meat, a lot of red meat, a lot of fruit and berries, nuts, cheese, a lot of dairy. A few years ago, I went on the carnivore diet, and which is just meat and dairy, and it was probably the most healthiest I'd ever felt in years and years and years. I lost tons of weight, and I got all my energy back and stuff like that. But the only thing with it was it just got so samey. Because it sounds great because you've got all the different meats to eat. You've got all your offal and your livers and stuff like that. But after a while, you just get sick of meat, and you long for a potato, and you long for a slice of bread and stuff like that. So you end up bringing little bits back into it again. So you don't strictly stay carnivore forever. There's a guy I follow on the socials called Sean Baker. He's a doctor in America who just rates the carnivore totally. He just eats red meat constantly. This guy's like nearly 60 and he looks about 20. He's in amazing condition, and it's just purely through eating meat.
Yeah, well, you very rarely see anyone who just has a normal, stable diet. Like, they very rarely look unhealthy. The only unhealthy people that I see really that look really drawn out and stuff are generally the vegans and the vegetarians. Right?
They have that look, don't they? They
really have that, unwell. Yeah.
They just have that drawn, I really need some bacon look on their face, don't they? And it's this cheekbone thing that they have. It's like it goes all stretched over the cheekbone, and you just want to throw a pork chop at them and say, "Come on, mate, dig in."
Yeah, I mean, they I make them look tired. they have bigger bags under their eyes than I do. Oh dear, Right, should we show everyone? Everyone might have seen this video anyway because it has been sort of bouncing around everywhere. But yeah, we just wanted to give you a little sample. I worked quite hard on this yesterday to get this together, so it's a shameless plug on the video that I did yesterday. But yeah, everyone, this is a little video of the protests and things that we've been going to. Not everything we've been doing, but it's just sort of a bit of a fun video. So we'll just play this through. It'll only be a couple of minutes.
to set out for you. I know you think that it ain't too far. But I hear a call of a lifetime ring. Felt the need to get up for it. Oh, you cut out the middleman. The free from the middleman. You got no time for the messenger.
That's a protest.
Got no regard for the thing that you don't understand. You got no fear of the underdog. That's why you will not survive. You can learn, but you don't want to know. You will not back up an inch of it. That's why you will not survive.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
It was awesome.
I think-
it was really, really
I
good.
think-
And just to give you an idea, I mean that kind of middle, like 3/4 shot, you know, where it comes over the back and you could see the England flag on the right hand side. Like when me and Kitjam were walking around in that crowd because we went for a little recce, didn't we, together? And there was literally every square foot of that area was filled with people. I mean, you couldn't really camera how many people were actually there all at once because it just kind of like overshadowed it. I would have really liked to have got like a bit of drone footage or something, or at least like a camera on a pole just to get up really high and, you know, to see quite the actual amount of people that were there. It was fantastic. It really was. And it was such a good vibe, wasn't it?
It was brilliant because there was all different groups there. There was people about 15-minute cities. There was people against digital IDs. There was the Stand in the Park people. There was just
Cashless
everybody.
guys.
Yeah, cashless.
National
Yeah.
Society,
Yeah.
there was
Antifa.
anti-lockdown.
Oh, refugees, welcome
We're gonna get
here.
them mentioned.
The thing is,
Refugees are welcome.
well,
the great unwashed.
they didn't. I was gonna say, yeah, they didn't need to say anything because you could smell them from about 100 meters away. Do you know
They
what
got
I mean?
outnumbered.
Do you know what makes me laugh about them, right? Is they turn up and they've got banners, and on the banners it says "Stop Racism Now," and it's like, do you actually know what this protest is actually about? It's got absolutely nothing to do with racism whatsoever, but yet you turned up anyway with your pathetic little banner. They really are just shit. Excuse me. Sorry,
Yeah.
but they just. Do you know what I mean? They're
Absolutely
just
right. I mean, the funny thing is I actually tracked. I actually sort of backtracked through what their intentions were there. Okay, so I ended up through the Enter the Matrix guy. He actually went and interviewed the main guy who was speaking in that video a little bit earlier, sort of 15 minutes before, and he said, "Oh, you know, we can't allow these fascists in our town and whatever," and saying stuff about other organisations that I'm sure everyone's sort of familiar with. And the funny thing was that there wasn't really anyone there from that organisation, you know, maybe one or two. So all of these Antifa have turned up, like, you know, mob-handed, like, you know, what, like 30 of them or whatever. And then the funniest thing is they've just gone marching straight up to David Curtin, who happens to be a man of colour, and then start screaming at him that he's a racist and a fascist. And it's like, guys, like, you don't, this just isn't working. It's not working. You're making yourselves look like absolute idiots. Do you know? And then at that point, you know, we had to back David up. So we whipped the banner out, didn't we, and stuck that in their faces and gave them a good.
Yeah, you tell everybody it was to back David up, and I'll believe you, Joe.
Well,
we got the banner out when they turned up. I mean, the police marched them right up to us.
They did. I mean, but
They've asked him right up to us.
it all happened very quickly, didn't it, mate? We didn't plan any of this or anything. It wasn't sort of an arranged altercation or anything. It's just sort of, it was, it's just one of those things, wasn't it?
Was it? I think we would have been moved off if someone hadn't gone to the toilet, but so we ended up staying, and then that chap broke into song, "This Is Life," and that was just funny.
That was good, wasn't it? Yeah, I was trying to get some of the footage of that, but I couldn't find. It was such a long stream that was on. It would have taken me forever to find it, unfortunately. But
it was sort of right place, right time, sort of coincidence.
Talking about protests and stuff, Joe, I think we ought to announce the This Ends Now campaign roadshow starts on the 1st of April.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about this, Rich?
I'll be briefly. Hopefully my mic won't play up. But yeah, on the 1st of April, the This Ends Now roadshow will start in the Midlands, to be announced. Basically, what we'll be doing is going into town centres all over the country over the summer in particular, and we'll be taking a sort of pace table. We've got a nice banner, "Stop Sexualising Our Children," and the aim of the campaign is to raise awareness of the sexualisation of our children in schools, not just through the Drag Queen Story Hour, but also in schools and the education system. Now, this is what's really important about this is I think that the pushback is starting all over now on this. I mean, we're seeing a lot of pushback in the newspapers, in Parliament now. So really, now is the time to keep the pressure up. I said last year, I think, when we first started this campaign, that this is one of the weakest chinks in their armour, the sexualisation of children. You go after the kids and people are going to get bothered about that. And I think it's important now that we keep that up. This is like the INN's specific campaign. Don't get me wrong, we will also be joining other people on their protests, but this is our specific campaign where we'll be going out at least once a month. We've already been talking about it beforehand, haven't we? That some of the places that we're looking to go, South Wales we're looking at Yorkshire. So we've already got a few places in mind, and down south by Kit as well. So we've already got a few places in mind where we're going to go. But yeah, it's about taking this on the road, going out talking to ordinary people, and we want to get good numbers down there as well for each one, so as we can get the leaflets out, talk to people, raise awareness of this, and keep the pressure up on the MPs, on the educationalists, a whole lot of them.
Definitely, and not just from our side either. We have to really drum home how important it is and how much more effective it is, that actually, rather than just turning up to these demonstrations, when something's happening that you disagree with, but actually turning up to the towns where the demonstration is happening a couple of weeks before to speak to the locals about what's happening. This sort of local engagement and stuff, because the majority of people, do you know the amount of people in Oxford that didn't even know what was going on?
Yeah.
And there was 4,000 people marching through the middle of their town, and they're just like deers in headlights, just going, "What's going on? I don't know what." And you explain it to them, and they're like, "That's happening in my city." What is going on? Come on, get your head out the sand, man. They're taking everything from you, and you just eating your kebabs.
The funny thing is, the pub that we went to go into today, a drag Thursday drag out, we couldn't go in there, could we? So that they are.
Me and Joe went in. We used the toilet in there. We went in. And we went in, and by the time we come out, you lot had stick at the whole place with
the leaflets.
A lot of them.
Leaflets. Yeah. It's funny. So that's happening there too. So they've got a problem.
Yeah, you can kind of see with the whole Drag Queen Story Hour thing, if you're watching the socials and stuff like that, it is all starting to unravel a little bit, especially for our friend ADHD. I mean, he's had some extremely bad press in the last few days. There was a school visit he did in Wales, one of the most progressive schools going, and apparently he dropped quite a few faux pas on that one. Talking about suicide and various other things, caused a massive safeguarding issue, which highlights the fact that this guy is just not qualified to be talking to children about anything. and let alone talking about what he does with his bits, which is basically what his old raison d'etre is, isn't it? It's hey kids, look at me, this is what I do. And you know, why that man needs to be put into a setting, in an educational setting, where he can influence children about his lifestyle choices is absolutely baffling. And it just goes to show how society's unraveling. I mean, you know, it's all well and good being inclusive and all the rest of it, but this guy is going into schools and he's talking about things as being verbatim that's just not true. And it's just crazy. And what these schools are doing, what the thinking is behind all of this is even more scary, because they're pushing this agenda onto kids who, you know, who are very, very, very vulnerable. They're very susceptible to things. They can get a lot of things put into their heads that they may not have been thinking about before. And what is that? That's grooming at the end of the day. And but he's getting bad press now. He's got pressure on him. What we need to do, I think, as Rich has rightly said, is just keep the pressure on and keep hammering the message home, because I've got a feeling that those days are, I think Drag Queen Story Hour days are numbered. I don't think it's going to be around in the next couple of years.
I don't think it is either, because the feminists don't like drag queens. I didn't realise this, but feminism is based on women not thinking they should wear dresses and high heels and makeup and stuff, because that's to please a man. So it's a form of oppression. So a drag queen that chooses to get all glammed up is depicting the woman in the most highly made up version of themselves, and the drags then choose that as a way of expressing themselves. So they're like, they don't just want to be women, they want to be this sort of version of women that the women consider as a version of being oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
So feminists don't like drag queens, but
yeah, I mean, in a very kind of Joe, make things as simple as possible. The way that I see it is like, you know, feminists have been fighting for these rights for the past 50 years or whatever, and then right at the end of it, when things are probably the best that it's ever been for women, and then men just come in,
they
kick
give
the
their
door
own
down, and just go
away.
like, I'm a fucking woman. Sorry, oh, I've done it again. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the
women give themselves away, don't they? They give themselves away.
And edit this and send it back out. Sorry, guys.
I don't understand why women do that. They give themselves away. They get reach a point where you can say, okay, we're not equal, but you know, as equal as we can be in terms of respect, you know, physically, and then they give the physical aspect away, and then trans women are women.
Yeah, well, they get really unstuck with the argument, don't they? You know, because you do tend to find that it's quite kind of like this hardcore feminist-esque kind of women that are on that side of things, that are like defending the trans people, you know, but then they're also the same people who are going, oh, well, you know, don't be racist towards Muslims. And it's like, hang on a second, have you ever actually spoken to a Muslim about what you believe? Like, you know, like really, you know, because you're going to have a lot more problems trying to convince them in the future than you are us, if you sort of get what I'm saying. I mean, if you remember a few years back when you had this exact issue was going on in Birmingham, there was certain things being taught in the school there, and you had a bit of a protest going on between the LGBT guys and then, you know, the Muslim guys, and they were just refusing each side to sort of move on it. But the really interesting thing to see there was the BBC reporting, because obviously you've got two protected classes there. You've got two people that you ultimately, you know, put on a pedestal every time, who are fighting with each other. So, but you know, you could hear them going, oh, well, you know, kind of like, well, like, you know, the Muslims kind of have like a point, but then also like, you know, and their heads were melting with it, you know, because they don't have a solid stance with it. It's just, we accept everything, and you can't accept everything. You know, when you pull from anything, another pin pulls down somewhere else. You can't have everything. It's just not possible, you know.
Becomes a hierarchy. Who's top of the hierarchy? You know, is it Muslims or LGBT? And,
it's all about the trannies. They're the squeakiest wheel.
Yeah.
At the moment, it seems that way, doesn't it?
It's intersectional victimhood, isn't it? Which one's the biggest victim that we can champion today? Well, you know, it's got to be the trannies this week, and next week it will be, you know, somebody else, and then somebody else, and But ultimately, the left always eats itself, doesn't it? You know, they'll trip over. You can't be that virtuous all the time, and eventually something's going to come along and bite you on the ass, and that really did bite him on the ass big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jess Phillips had to do mental and verbal somersaults, didn't she? Jess
Yeah,
Phillips,
I
she was in the middle of that, going like, trying to explain that, because they're her constituents. The Muslims are her constituents,
Yeah.
and they were up in arms, and she was having to do verbal somersaults to try and appease them. Really,
I wonder how many community centres got built off the back of that, eh?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's
But
usually the payoff, isn't it? It's like, hey, what we'll give you, you know.
Well, when you talk about the whole gender stuff, there's something going on sort of with my daughter's school. I won't mention the name of the school or anything like that, but they've taken the toilet doors off of the school toilets, and they've made all the toilets gender neutral, so anybody can use any toilet at any time. Well, little boys are little boys. And now my daughter is actually scared to go to the toilet. She doesn't like going to the toilet, because when she does, what do the little boys do? They get up on the toilet seat and have a look over the cubicle walls. So now she's actually using the toilet of one of the teachers in the library at the school, because she doesn't like using the toilets. And the kids in the school actually staged a mass walkout in protest over the school's decision about the toilets, and it was supported by the parents as well. The parents said, no, it's absolutely right. But it's insane. It is absolutely mental. Why have they done that? You know, it's just asking for trouble. It really is.
It's like I was saying, Viking, earlier about the dog wagging the tail all the time. The parents, it's up to the parents. The schools are making these rules up, but it's they're public servants.
Yeah.
They should do what the parents say. If the parents say, we're not having this, that's it. You don't get a say in it, teachers. I'm sorry. I don't care what you were taught at your Ruskin College or whatever. I really don't care.
Training or whatever.
Whatever. It's the parents. They are in charge. You know, they are sovereign over their children, and they get to tell you what can be done and what can't be done. It's just
I mean, well,
the world's gone mad.
In Wales now, you know, they've now put it in law that parents are not allowed to remove their children from whatever particular curriculum that that they've sort of, you know, that they've got their kids in, and they're no longer allowed to do Freedom of Information Act with regards to the content of which their children are actually being taught. So, you know, you're going to, again, you know, they don't think about what they're doing when they do these things, because how do you take into consider Jehovah's Witness? You know, like kids, you know, because a lot of, when I was a kid growing up, you know, there was a lot of stuff that, you know, the JV sort of kids didn't have to attend and didn't have to be a part of because of their religious circumstance. And I think, you know, fair enough, to be honest with you, if that's what you know, if that's your thing. But, you know, how do you then placate to that, you know?
I've done a bit of research into homeschooling, because we were looking into the possibility of homeschooling one of our grandkids, and what I found quite interesting about that is once you say I'm homeschooling my kid and you take them out, at least in England anyway, because Wales, the Soviet Republic of Wales, is totally different. It really is. But yeah, once you take your kids out, once you say I'm homeschooling my kid, they have no jurisdiction over you. You know, they really don't. They just have to ensure that your children are literate and numerate, and that's it.
Yeah.
You can set the agenda. You don't have to tell them when you're going on holiday. And when I looked at that, I thought, I can't believe anyone actually puts their kids in school. Well,
that's what we're doing with our youngest. We're looking at homeschooling, because we're just seeing what my eldest is going through, and we're just like, you know, what she's learning at school now is just not an education, it's indoctrination, and I don't want that for my. If it was within my capability, my oldest daughter wouldn't go to school either. I'd pull her out and homeschool her, but unfortunately that's out of my hands. But my youngest daughter is, she's definitely not going to go to school. No chance.
No.
Not gonna
How old's your oldest daughter?
11.
Right. Well, the grandchild I was looking at homeschooling possibly is a 13-year-old. So you say it's beyond your capability. It isn't. If you look into it, mate.
It's to do with the fact I don't have the parental control to do it. If you catch my drift, I'm not with the mum, so yeah, it's the mum's choice really ultimately. But if I did have that capability, then yeah, she would definitely be coming out of school, and she knows that as well. I've told her that, so so hopefully I'll sway it one way and she'll end up with me. But we'll wait and see. We'll see how that goes.
Teachers are preachers, and the independent schools don't have to follow the national curriculum. So isn't it funny that if you've got enough money, you can send your children to independent schools and they don't get indoctrinated?
Do you know, it's funny, when I was a kid growing up, I didn't know anything about my teachers other than what they taught me and their name. Now it's teachers will walk in and they'll have, I don't know, LGBT flag T-shirts or Black Lives Matter T-shirts, or they walk in with Jeremy Corbyn badges on, or, it's almost like they've just become these purveyors of indoctrination. They're not teachers anymore. They don't educate kids. Yeah, exactly. They just go in. They just go into schools. Sorry, mate, carry on.
No, sorry. No, I was just saying, like, they're well aware of it. I mean,
absolutely.
They've known about this stuff for years, man. I mean, even if you want to do the old, all the, Nazis and whatever, they were aware of it. Well, why do you think the Hitler Youth was such a big thing? It's like, because that's the future generations of that country. If you get them young, as Aristotle, I put it in a post not so long ago, it's like 340 BC. He was writing about, give me a boy, give me a child to the age of 7 and I'll show you the man. Obviously things have changed a little bit now, where it's probably, give me a child to the age of probably like 16 or whatever, then I'll show you the man. But the framework still stands, and it's still the exact same thing. You can mold someone into basically whatever you want. If you get them young enough, it's why you see these tribal, in war in Africa countries, it's a very well practiced thing that when they go into a village, a neighboring, warring village, they'll essentially kidnap the kids and they'll make them kill their own parents, because it's an ultimate detachment of anything that sort of means anything in life. Once you've murdered your own parents, there literally isn't anything else that you can't do. Killing another human being after that would be 10 times easier than anything that you've done before. Do you get what I'm saying? And these, and a machine, the machine gun in the hands of an 11-year-old is just as deadly as it is in the hands of a 30-year-old. And they know these things and they use them, and they're despicable. We've agreed as humanity, as any developed civilization, we've always come to the conclusion that it is evil to mess with children on a level like that. It's why it's bred into us. Just let the kids be, let your kid be him. This is why it's such a mantra of things, and as you get a little bit older, I'm a father of 3, and when you hear it when you're growing up, and the old boys sort of saying to you, just enjoy your childhood, mate, it's not around forever, just try and be a kid, and the whole time you're resisting that and you're fighting against it, and you just want to be you want to be a grown up, and you want to have money in your pocket and things, and as soon as it lands on you and all of a sudden you realize that you're in a life of responsibility and you have things that actually matter, it's all over then, and this is why it's so cherished, and why we owe it to children really to allow them just to have that bit of space just to be kids and just enjoy themselves. Me and Simon were talking a bit about this last night.
And it's also, you just had the budget as well. He just brought the budget out where they're upping the childcare hours that they're going to pay for. I think they're going in plus 30 odd hours now. I think the government are willing to pay for people's childcare. Well, wouldn't it be better to give that money to the parents, so the child can stay with the parents longer? If you need an example of a government that is trying to separate parents from children as early as possible, then this is exactly what they're doing. And this childcare money that they're pouring millions into this, don't give them childcare. Give the parents the children. Let the children stay with their parents. Give that money to the parents to raise their children. Why don't we do that? But we don't, because they need to get them into the nurseries, into the primary schools, so they can start teaching them the LGBT crap, all the Black Lives Matter rubbish, all of that stuff at an early age. It's indoctrination. And people need to wake up to that, and they need to understand, don't send your kids to school. You need to homeschool them, because what they're teaching these kids at school is just rubbish.
Well, I mean, I'm a bit torn with you on that one, mate, to be honest with you, because you get these two mindsets, don't you? Of like, sort of, one is kind of run to the woods, do our own thing, like I'll show you some drone footage at the moment of, my stance on that really with regards to sort of food, because I've known that the food shortages were coming for the past 18 months. I could have almost put a pin in the calendar of when it was about to happen. And it was such a beautiful thing when I saw the obviously I don't want to see it happen, but when I saw all the headlines coming out of us being rationed on fruit and vegetables, it's like, look, you can't keep calling us conspiracy theorists when we're right about pretty much everything. We've called everything. We've called all the COVID stuff. We've called all the lockdown stuff. We've called all the cashless society stuff. We've been way ahead of the 15-minute cities, the bug burgers. You can't go on anymore. This is kind of where it's at, isn't it? Do we just create this alternate society of which will be weak, because it is going to be very Amish, and if they did just want to turn on us at that point, then we'd probably be quite easy to crush, because they'd just make us out to be terrorists. They'd plant someone who's, Jebediah Joe is, doing something naughty that, that's the way that I see it going. Whereas I think we actually need to hit the system back now. I think that they're scared. I think that they're terrified that there's this many people that are getting so angry about so many issues within the facets of our society that, mate, I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to disappear off into the woods and do our own thing.
It's running away.
Change what we have here right now.
I do still think you have to. I agree with you, Joe, but I think individually, where you can, you still have to try and make yourself as less dependent on the state. Yeah. Remember, wherever you're dependent on the state, that's a lever they can use against you. So carry on growing your own food, things like that. It doesn't mean that you have to run away to the woods to do that, but you have to. I think you have to try sort of do that. Well, the other thing you have to remember as well about the numbers, right? They won't like this, but people who didn't subject themselves, shall we say, to a certain medical procedure. The adult population was actually 19.35%.
The old 80-20 rule again.
It's about 1 in 5.
80-20, I mean, not 80.
And when you now add in all the people who did subject themselves to that medical procedure, but now realise it was a massive mistake, and are now waking up to that, then that percentage goes up even higher. You're right; they haven't got the numbers to we don't need to be forced into the woods now. And I think they know that. I think they really do know that.
But what's happening in France?
Sorry, Kit, carry on.
Oh, so I say, look what's happening in France, all the protests in Paris.
And Holland.
Holland, the farmers.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
Yeah. And the media's suppressing it as well. They're not putting it on the mainstream media. They're trying to keep it all quiet, but it's all over the internet. You don't have to look very hard to see it.
No, that's the thing. Stay where you are, but divorce yourself from the state. Lose that dependency on the state piece by piece. Look at your life and say, how can I untangle myself from the state in this way and that way? And the more and more you can do that, the less levers they have against you.
That leads us into English the law as how we can unpick the law that we don't consent to.
That's right, yeah. And the thing is, and don't be tempted by their bread and circuses, people who went, I took the medical procedure because I want to go to football, because I want to go on holiday, because I want to go to a pop concert. Give your heads a wobble, guys. Sorry, it's like what's more important, and we 20% near enough understood that, and I think that percentage is a lot higher. They ain't going to be able to get away with it quite the same way, I don't think.
I mean, when you look at this government, when you go back to sort of pre-COVID days, when we had Boris Johnson was elected on that massive landslide victory, And then you've watched everything happen since the COVID debacle. Now, the two schools of thought you look at it are that you've got a grossly incompetent government that are so divorced from the people that they don't know what they're doing and they're making mistake after mistake and mistake. Or you can look at it the other way, which is they're doing exactly what they're meant to be doing. And I firmly believe that this country, as it stands, is an occupied country in all respects. You know, we've got a WEF puppet leading the country. I mean, the guy is just taking his orders from the World Economic Forum. We've got a government that seems to do the exact opposite of everything they say. I mean, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist or a genius to look at the society around you and the government and the way it's behaving to think to yourself something is really, really badly wrong here, and we need to put a stop to it, or we need to do something about it. And you know, they're just following the WEF playbook. They're doing everything that the WEF is telling them to do. And I mean, you have to look at the immigration issue. You know, the immigration issue is out of control. And all right, they're coming down with all this hardline stuff about Rwanda and all the rest of it. But let's see the results. Let's see what they actually do.
Yeah, they'll throw us. The Tories will always throw you a little bit of red meat to make you think they're doing something. The Rwanda
absolutely.
thing. We're going to look into the education thing in schools, what they're teaching kids.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do this.
We're going to have a review. We're going to do a questionnaire.
Yeah, that's just red meat they throw every time. We ought to call them the gunners, not because they're always going to do something, but they never actually do they? You know,
No.
That's the Tories all the time, and a lot of people fall for that little bit of red meat that gets thrown from them. They think, oh, the Tories have got it sorted now. We're all right. No.
Oh, we passed a
won't.
bill.
Brilliant. I mean, but you know, laws are only laws when they're enforced, aren't they? You know, we all know this to be the truth. You know, it's we've got loads of laws that just, you know, that are just basically non-applicable because, you know, because they're not enforced by anyone. You know, I mean, look at car crime now. You know, you have a 1 in 100 chance now of actually getting caught if you steal a car in the UK. So,
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to go and nick a car.
I mean, by that rule of logic,
I wouldn't bother with one of them electric ones, then, Kit.
Hey, you're right. Yeah, you know, so it's one of those things, isn't it? You know, it's only good if there's actually someone behind it actually doing something. You know, it's all good having a review, but who's at the head of these boards? Who's okaying the money for these kinds of shows going on? Because someone's being paid for it. You know, someone's hitting that PayPal button, and you know, I've been onto these websites of these drag queens, you know, where they hire them and whatever, and honestly, it's so degenerate on there. You know, they're like, oh, raunchy, you know, adult entertainment and all this stuff. So you as a school administrator, right, you are going onto this Brightside, you know, website or whatever it is. You're reading and trawling through all of these different, you know, drag queens that are offering all of these adult entertainments, and then going, oh, that one looks really reasonable to come in and talk to my 11-year-olds on a Wednesday morning. You know, who is making these decisions?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know, you know, because there's someone doing it, you know, there's someone who's giving this directive, and we need to start answering those questions and replacing these people with people who are just completely unbiased and that want kids to learn English, maths, science, you know, history, geography, you know, the normal stuff that, you know, helps kids develop and, you know, just gives them a solid standing in life to move forward. And you know, it's just absolutely beyond me. But
Joe,
yes,
talking about growing your own food, didn't you have some drone footage?
I did.
Well,
I did. Yeah. So
he
yeah,
even changed his name to Drone. Look.
I know. I just wanted you to.
I wondered why it said that.
Otherwise, I feel like I'm like, you know, oh, look at what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? But yeah. So yeah, this is something that I'm really quite proud of. I've been working on it for about 4 months, and I basically sort of I found a really good area that it's been completely abandoned for about 15 years. So I repurposed it as a vegetable and chicken keeping area. So yeah, I'll pop my friend helped me out with some footage the other day, so I'll try.
So are you changing your name to Anglo Drone now?
Anglo Drone.
Drone.
Anglo Farmer Drone. Okay, we'll turn the sound down in case it's humming or anything.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Oh. That's like some broccoli growing there.
It's really cool, isn't it?
That is awesome.
Let's go grab my bottle opener, guys. Just 1 second.
See, this is the kind of thing that I think everybody should be looking at doing, even if it's just, growing some potatoes in your back garden and using buckets and tires or whatever. It's and the sad thing about it is my grandparents were they used to grow all their own fruit and veg, and I wish I'd gleaned some of that knowledge from them. About when to plant and when to sow, all that kind of stuff. Because they very rarely bought anything from a supermarket. It was all out the garden.
Yeah, my mum.
We took it for granted, didn't we?
Yeah, my mum's the same.
Yeah.
Whole garden was a vegetable patch with just a little bit of grass at the bottom of the garden.
Yeah.
But I've got a little veg patch and a greenhouse.
I don't think we thought we'd ever need it. We saw the older generations doing it, but I don't think, obviously I was a kid in the sort of 60s and 70s. It was a time of relative plenty even for the working class people in terms of food and stuff. And we never really thought we'd ever have to do that. I wish we did. I wish we had have done. I wish we'd have learnt more. Like you said, I wish I'd have learnt a lot more of them. That generation's gone now. That's the trouble for the most part, haven't they? And we're going to have to relearn.
Yeah, a lot of modern day houses were built with just small gardens, whereas old houses were built with big gardens. That obviously because we're growing vegetables.
You'll also find that if you dig a few feet under in the modern houses, it's just rubble.
Yeah, that's it. It's just rubble and topsoil is what we've got in our garden. So, Joe, do you worry that somebody might come back and claim that land, or do you think it's definitely not going to happen?
Oh, I must check.
I think you've muted yourself.
Oh, you've muted yourself, Joe.
Oh, sorry, guys. I've been digging up crisp packets from like 15 years ago and 16, 17 years ago and stuff with Michael Owen on the back when he was about 12. So it's like, that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, I'm not worried at all, mate. Everything there was just completely rotted, and it was just, brambles on top of brambles on top of brambles. It was really hard work getting it all cleared. But that in itself is quite good because it's had a lot of time for the microbiology to build up. All the worms and everything have casted in there, so it's very rich, and there's loads of tree life around that's been dropping leaves for years and years. So the ground is dead fertile as it is. So it's kind of perfect. And the idea with this is to kind of just develop the idea that, look, you can do this stuff, and we have all of these areas that are just, basically complete wasteland that could be used as productive, food producing, areas that could essentially feed communities. It's sort of getting back to the kind of allotment sort of thought of, sort of frame of mind is, and it's an interesting conversation I was having with someone the other day, that a lot of people look at these kind of initiatives as very like left leaning, being kind of like tree huggery and, growing your own food and that sort of stuff. But really, actually, it's a lot more of kind of a post World War II nationalist sort of perspective, really, to be honest with you, is look, if we don't have it right now, it's not there, so, and these
I gotta be honest, Joe, the left right dichotomy doesn't work anymore, does it?
It doesn't.
It doesn't work when Russell Brand and Piers Corbyn are called far right. Something's gone wrong with the narrative there.
Yeah.
It's really about control and freedom.
Yeah, I'm a lefty.
People who want to control us. Yeah, there are people who want to control us, and people who just want to be able to be control of their own destiny, whether they're left, right, whatever. Those people are part of the dissident movement. It's freedom versus control. You start trying to put left and right on it, and in these days, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, this is it, and it needs to be rethought in that sort of way as well, doesn't it? You know.
Good and evil.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's it really, yeah. It's I don't know. It's sort of in a Well, we're not biblical, man. Anyway, are we, Saxon? Sorry, Viking. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So it's for us to see it in that kind of way. It's really saying something, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
But taking it from a Christian perspective, it is like the beast. It is like the beast of Revelations because it's a multi-headed beast, and it needs to be sent back to hell, regardless of whether you put a biblical connotation to it. It needs to be sent back to hell.
I don't think anybody from whether you're Gen X or Zoomer, whatever you want to call it, I don't think anybody ever envisaged for 1 second that we were going to see days like this, that we were going to see us being locked down because of a virus. You know, they didn't think that we were going to have drag queens walking into schools, that paedophiles were going to be called MAPS, minor attracted people. You know, all this kind of stuff. We never ever, in my grandparents' age, they probably never thought that this would ever happen in a million years. I certainly never thought it would ever happen in a million years, but every day the world seems to be getting stranger and stranger. And those people that see decency and goodness and just want a bit of common sense in the world are being targeted out as being far right. You're a Nazi, apparently, if you don't want somebody talking to children in an inappropriate way. Apparently that makes you far right. Wow. What kind of a world are we living in, people,
I'm far right. Is everyone else far right? Because if that's what
I'm definitely
called normal nowadays, I'm far right. Cool, man.
Well, I'm definitely not far. Yeah, that's it.
Not far right, just right so far.
Right so far. Yeah, I was just going to say, well, I'm definitely not far wrong.
Yeah.
Whether I'm far right or not, but I'm not far wrong. That's what I think. So.
Absolutely.
By the way, guys, it's rude not to have a Sunday at the end and not have a beer. So cheers, everyone.
Yeah, cheers. I know Kit'll have hers. I'll be the teetotaler.
Yeah, I'll stick to the water.
Cheers.
To that good job, fair play.
Talking just before we probably head off.
Yeah.
Obviously, Joe knows about this, but just to let a few people know about it from the in point of view. My brother Paul, technically he's my half brother. We got the same mom, different dads, and his dad sadly passed away, and he's just due to get his inheritance. Now, one of the things that he's going to do, he's buying a plot of land. It's obviously for growing food. It'll be in fairly close to us in that sort of middle of England area. Now that plot of land, we're planning in case something changes and there is a sort of like an emergency moment. We're buying 2 sort of 8 berth caravans because there's immediate family. There's 16, so it's 16 beds for 16 heads type of thing. But we are going to be looking at doing some growing, and it'll be like he's looking at vertical. He knows more about this than me, so I'm not going to the hydroponics stuff. But more pertinent for the INN than that, because obviously I've got nothing to show you on that. He hasn't actually purchased the land yet. He's just ready to sort of start looking at the land now. But more pertinent for the INN, what we will be planning to do as well is putting aside a bit of that land for a camping spot. So INN camps will be able to happen on a regular basis once the land is purchased. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is where it's all stemmed off from, wasn't it? Because there was the land project was going about 18 months ago, a year, 18 months ago.
Truther one.
Yeah, and then it's sort of that whatever happened and whatever, and then it sort of broke down to Paul and yourself, wasn't it? And then that's kind of where it inspired me, to be honest with you, to sort of just crack on. I thought, these guys have got the right idea, and I mean, this gives you an idea of how long we've been on this for, isn't it? With regards to sort of becoming a bit more self-sufficient and things, and just
we were looking at going with it. There was a Truther project. I'm not going to name it because it may still be, in the thing, and I'm not going to name it, but there's a Truther project. It was a large scale one, and we looked at perhaps joining in on that. But the problem, as I saw it personally, for me, was I didn't know the people, and we went to a sort of seminar in Birmingham, Millennium Point, and I looked around the room and I thought, these people are strangers, and I thought that could be a problem. So that's why we sort of almost reverted back to the family plot type of thing, because it's like, you don't have to do security checks on your family, your family, and your friends and stuff like that. And that's what would have happened with the other thing. And I thought, just for me personally, you're having to use the state to check. You're having to utilise the state, so that didn't work for me. I thought, you're better to have familiar people. If you're going to create a community, have people that you're at least familiar with, that you're comfortable with, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'd be interested in hearing more about that, actually, because I'm always like the idea of buying land. It's the way forward.
I'll speak to you about it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll kind of sort of wrap it up, I reckon, guys. Just
do you want me to do the outro song?
Was it turned into karaoke?
I was thinking, I'm in with the in crowd. I go where the in crowd go.
I'd seriously,
I want to see more of that dance, Rich. That's what I want to see.
You really
got the moves there.
Something that we have missed actually off the agenda actually before we do wrap up is just coining this unity thing that's going across the board right now that seems to be sweeping the dissident sort of circles, which we all think is amazing. Everyone seems to be getting on really well. Everyone's sort of disregarding any of the silly dramas and things like that, and everywhere just great work is going on. So a big congratulations to everyone who's pushing. This time last year there was very little that we could do in the way of protest. Now at the moment there's protests pretty much going on every single week. So if you feel that you want to get involved, or there's that inkling in you to turn up something, I just can't encourage it enough. All you're going to do is just network and meet with people who think the same as you. You'll find people that you like, that live near you. Network with these people, become friends with these people. And keep coming to stuff, please. The only way that we win this is by doing it together. And sending this message loud and clear to them that this ends now. And we won't take. We will not compromise on that. That's. I
think, Joe, it's going to be a summer of protests. I really do.
I think so.
Whether it be migrant hotels, whether it be 15-minute cities, sexualisation of children, I see a summer of protests. I think you could pretty much go out every week, as you said.
Definitely.
Over the summer, I really do.
And if you're not comfortable with something, fine. It's not an issue. If you're not into the migrant hotels, I understand that. I know that there's conflicts and there's, people have their sort of social issues with that and stuff. That's fine. You focus on the 15-minute cities, focus on the cashless society stuff, focus on whatever it is that you need to. Just don't find an excuse to do nothing. There's always something out there for you to get involved in and fight back against this stuff. If you're not, if you do feel uncomfortable with the migrant stuff, whatever, fine. Just let us crack on with it. But you do have to accept that this is yet another prong on the spear that is being used against us. No matter how much it sort of makes you feel uncomfortable, it's the way it is, and I'm really sorry about that. But
it's a many-headed beast, mate. It's a many-headed beast, like in Revelations. It has many heads, and we have to fight every head in different ways.
As somebody who decided about a year ago to sort of come out from behind the camera, so to speak, and get involved more directly in things. One of the things that I've picked up on in the short time that I've been involved in the nationalist movement is the infighting, and how if you're on a chat group or something like that, you watch how the chat group degenerates into squabbling and things like that. The message I would give out to everybody is this whole movement, this whole thing is not going to get anywhere. We're not going to gain any traction by falling out with each other and arguing over petty differences, which at the end of the day don't really amount to anything. We've all got the same goals. We've all want the same things. We're all aiming the same way. Let's just work together. You don't have to like the guy next to you, but if you've got the same goals, then work together. You know, there's no reason why you can't. It's not about the cult of personality, as I call it. It's about the movement as a whole. And you know, it's great to see people putting their differences aside and just working together and focusing on the goal, as opposed to going back to the old arguments and the old bickering and stuff like that.
Yeah, the key, the four elements is, excuse me, four elements as far as I'm concerned. First of all, stop the bickering. Secondly, start talking. Then start cooperating. And then finally start coordinating. And when we do that, that could be a game changer.
Absolutely.
All the groups in the dissident get to that stage where we're coordinating our activities. Then we stretch their resources for a change. Then we get them playing whack-a-mole.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree with that completely.
Yeah, if we keep operating in the shadows, we're going to keep getting picked off in the shadows, you know, whereas if we stand as a united front, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to, you know, to start doing what they're doing. You saw this, you know, I don't want to coin on too much because it is getting on now, but, you know, you saw that in Oxford, you know, it reached that critical mass where they were just like, just carry on, guys. You know, wasn't it, Rich? The police were stood in the road at one point.
The police were funny.
Like they were going to.
Were these the ones that you were stickering?
Sticker on the back of them.
Well, they actually had a competition to see how many policemen they could stick a sticker on. And I'll tell you now,
what you're
for
talking
a big
about,
guy, Lenny won hands down.
Good on him.
He's like a ninja, Lenny. For a big guy, he's like a ninja. I'm telling you.
Oh, he can move. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
It's very funny.
Yeah,
I think they knew it and they just had to accept it because, you know.
Yeah, we could just do anything that day. I don't think they weren't willing to.
The powerless against the power of Lenny and his stickers.
It's the people, isn't it? Yeah, you know,
when the big man wants to stick one on you, there's nothing you can do. Don't fight it. Just go with the flow.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing that we need to see again. We just need to see that more and more and more and more people turning up. You know, it's the only way that they're ever going to listen to us. But right, okay then, guys. Should we wrap it up because it is coming on for like an hour and 40 minutes now, and we don't want to bore everyone to death, do we? But no, to everyone who did stick around, thank you so much. Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Good on you guys.
Did anyone listen to us?
I think one or two, but you know, hey, it is what it is, and I've had a great time anyway, guys. And like I say, when we make it a bit more of a a regular thing, and we'll be doing this every couple of weeks, so you know we'll keep updating people and keep going on, which is amazing. But I hope you've all had a good time. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks to all the moderators as well. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, cheers, Mod. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, cheers, Mods. Much appreciated. Our Jannies. Beautiful, guys. Right, take care of yourselves. See you soon. Thanks a million.
Yeah, see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.